From questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions in gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Locally, call 813-289-1860. Toll free 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning to you as we start off another one of our shows. And our first show, I should say, here. And I'm very blessed to have my son, James DeFreitas, as my co-host. James, this is the first time we've done a lot of talks together. It's the first time on radio.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of a new experience for me, but for you, this is kind of old hat. And I think it's pretty interesting. It's good to get back on the air, and it's been quite some time that you've been on the air.
Well, I've been doing a national show with Mort White once a month. I wasn't in Florida, but I was in New England and other places. I was doing that for the last few years. The Magic Garden Show with Uncle Morty, who you and I both knew from some of the places we've been when we were doing stuff with some of the big manufacturers that had us flown up and that type of thing. Remember when we had stretch limos and remember those days?
Yeah, that was great. It was nice to feel special when we were doing those kinds of things. But one of the things I thought might be interesting to talk about too is to, for those people that are new to Florida,
sure,
maybe to discuss a little bit about your background, and maybe I'll discuss a little bit about my background. Let you go first.
All right. Well, I was a former extension horticulturist. I worked for 8 years with the Pinellas County Extension Service. Started the, first Master Gardener program in Pinellas. I've also worked with some of the finest attorneys in Tampa Bay in the field of eminent domain. And that's when the government comes through and says, we want your property to widen a road, build a school, that type of thing. We're there, and I've been in well over 500 eminent domain cases as an expert witness. So I can go in there, and I usually tell the attorneys it's a live oak, a Quercus virginiana, or a laurel oak, Quercus laurilefolia. I am a certified arborist. I'm an arborist that doesn't carry a chainsaw, but I've worked in a bunch of cases, partly because it pays better than planting Mrs. O'Leary's petunia bed. But we did write a gardening book for Florida. We're number 10 in gardening book history, which I'm proud of. We've got a copy right here. This is one of the older ones. I do have a new edition, and you'll see that I had mustache and more hair back then.
Well, they can't see it, but when they go onto the Ask Mr. Greenthumb website, which is at www.askmrgreenthumb.com, when we post this as a video podcast, then people can definitely see it then. One of the things that I think is really interesting is the diversification of all the stuff that you do. I mean, I sometimes refer to you as Mr. Everything. With your, having an auctioneer's license, to being a real estate agent, to being a horticulturist, being with the Extension Service, answering hundreds and hundreds of, probably thousands of questions that you've answered over the years. And to me, it's just very impressive stuff.
Well, thank you very much. You're a good son, and this isn't Father's Day, it's Mother's Day, but we appreciate you saying good things, and of course, I love having you here with me, and I couldn't ask for a better son. So I will say that. So we're happy about that. We might tell folks a little bit about you. Now, sure. I was what I did, but let's hear about what you've done.
Sure. Well, and again, I'm actually a broker associate, and I'm also a licensed auctioneer. And so if you notice that the title of the show is really about Florida gardening, and we're going to discuss a little bit of real estate as well. So some of the things that I did in my life is that, I've been in and out of real estate since 2003. I was originally licensed up in South Carolina, in Charleston, beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. And, and that was a great experience. I was working for a company where, they had a minimum build square footage of 5,000 square feet and up. So it was a pretty exclusive community to operate out of. And but when I came back to Florida, I thought, hey, this would be a great time to take advantage of the laws of reciprocity and, either sit for your sales license or you could sit for your broker's test. And so I said, well, hey, I'm just going to sit for my broker's test. To me, it's more valuable and it gives me more opportunity to do things. And so and then ultimately I did want to go ahead and finish off my education. So I went to the University of South Florida and I got a BA in history. And that's always been kind of a passion for me. I always enjoy reading history books and being a good steward of the past. Because if you don't study the past, you're doomed to repeat it, as they often say, and that couldn't be more true. So, but it's probably the most exciting thing I've done in the last couple of years is I joined Berkshire Hathaway Florida Properties Group, and they are.
We both did.
Yeah, and you did as well, and we now co-manage the auction division for that company, and I couldn't be happier to be doing that and helping that company and serving our clients.
Or accelerated sales, as we like to call it.
Accelerated sales, absolutely. So one of the things that I think a lot of people might have a question on is gardening and real estate. I mean, we have had that one come up where people look at us kind of cross-eyed and go, really? How do the two go together? And I think they really do. Maybe you could discuss how that,
Well, every home I've looked at has usually some trees and a lawn and plants. And if you're like I am, you stick some veggies and things of that nature in there as well. So certainly I see a natural tie-in. In fact, one of our friends, Tanya, asked me yesterday, was the show going to be just on beautiful homes, landscapes? And we may do some of that. In fact, I just did a consult the other day for a beautiful home that's in the process over in the Davis Island area in Tampa. And I won't say who, but a well-known person and who I've worked for off and on for years. And she brought her great design team in, met with them, looked at the landscape plan, kind of gave my 2 cents, mostly listened to what they were going to do. And that's something that I do on occasion. I do some consulting where we'll go out and we might say that people will give the numbers out later if they want to contact me directly. But we'll also talk about, we're working with Berkshire Hathaway folks and Florida Properties Group. Great group. I mean, when you think of great guys like our buddy Anthony Canaris, we've got great guys out there who we're working with who've been just really super in trying to help us.
Absolutely, yeah. Anthony Canaris and and Terry Kelly, they're just fantastic brokers that work for the company, and couldn't be prouder to call them friends.
Yep, TK is a great guy. Terry Kelly, just a super guy. I even like Bob in our office there. He's been a wealth of knowledge. When we needed something, he'd go, "Hey, here's how something's going to go." And so we have a great team around us that's been good, and the folks are great. So if you're working with an agent out of Berkshire Hathaway, they're going to treat you right, and we are happy that we're with that group. Also, of course, we're going to say that we work with people outside that group. If you're with other people, we had somebody call us last week from, I think it was Caldwell in Sarasota. We had Keller Williams. You name any of the majors, we've worked with them as well. So if you need that house gone, we're another tool in your toolbox.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that's a great point to mention too, because a lot of agencies out there, they'll have staffed lots of agents that are there. But what we do is we're not competing with other real estate agents, and that's kind of our specialty. I mean, we're actually working with other real estate agents. That's and I think that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is when they go get their real estate license, they're in Pinellas County, I mean, you have over 9,000 real estate agents that are registered with Pro, and you are competing in a very competitive market. So one of the things I would say with accelerated sales is that, when they're having trouble, and that's the thing that I'm not sure that new agents will understand. Now, the agents have been doing this for years. They totally get it. They know that there's going to be a certain percentage of properties that they're going to take on where they're just not going to get the foot traffic that they thought they were going to get. And they're not, they've done the open houses. They've had good traffic. Maybe it was one of these situations where, the seller was really trying to get more for the house than it really should have went for. Maybe they didn't listen to the agent when the agent came back and said to them, "Hey, look, we think it should be priced at this price." And that's really when I think that accelerated sales can shine, because we have the ability to give the agents a different pricing structure, and as you've said before, we have that come to Jesus moment with them where we have to sit back and say, "Hey, listen, I know you think it's worth $300,000, but unfortunately, it's probably going to sell for $260,000." And, sometimes that hurts to hear, but that's sometimes what they have to hear in order for the home to actually sell.
Yep, I think you're exactly right. Well, let's mention to folks, too, if you want to give us a call, I'll be answering questions on your veggies and trees and shrubs, as I always have, at 813-289-1860 or 877-969-8600. You'll notice that it's 860 there. And we want you to call if you've got questions about whatever you're going right or wrong in your yard or garden. I'm here. It's a live show. I'll answer those questions for you. And I know there's some out there that'll say, hey, can't seem to get to a live body anymore that'll answer those questions. Well, we're here. And that's what we're trying to do. People sometimes say, well, where do you invest your money? I always think property is a good place to do it because historically, and I can tell you, I've made more money in property than I ever have betting the stock market. And I've done the stock market. And actually, stock market's not been bad. And I always say, oh, you're going to lose all your money if you have it in the stock market. Well, I've never lost any money. When things went down here a little bit, it went back up. And I'm ahead now from where I was before. I was thinking, oh, God, those people are so right. They tell me I'm going to lose everything and I've got to earn it 3 times. Baloney. As I like to say, as I told an attorney one time, there is nothing that you're going to tell me that I'm too worried about. But, we're here to help you. I still think real estate is a great investment. Yes, we'd have the corona. We've all been living through that. Half the people in our studio today look like they're trying to rob banks. They all have masks on around here. They're all being COVID-19 compliant, which I admire. But
exactly. And again, perception is reality, and I think a lot of times we're in a situation where we're having to be protective either for ourselves or for the other ones that we're concerned with. And but I see the masks and stuff, and I think to myself, well, geez, if you're that concerned about it, maybe you shouldn't leave your house.
813-289-1860, 877-969-8600. We'll put you on the air with us, and we want to tell you that the Plant Talk and Real Estate Show will continue.
Hi, Darcy the cow here for Black Cow, the mature manure. Every time you buy a bag of Black Cow, you're helping the environment. Our process helps to repurpose manure so it is environmentally friendly and beneficial for your garden and lawn. Black Cow contains up to 10 times more nutrients and microbes than garden soils. Oh yeah, and it helps to retain moisture too. Your lawn, flower beds, and vegetable gardens will be off to a great start with Black Cow. Everything grows better with sun, water, and Black Cow. Oh yeah, for details, check out our website, at blackcow.com.
Black Cow, the mature manure, Black Cow.
Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Florida Properties Group encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve fair market value for your home. Are you tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? Instead, we make the buyers pay for it. Again, go to aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to help answer your questions. If you've got questions about what's going right or wrong, I can tell you right now, I grow avocados. Got some, should be ready in the next month, and I'm happy. I know that Carol's out. My neighbor is looking at them. Metchie have been going by, glancing at them. My new neighbor across the way, she's looking at them as well.
And you have random people just walking by going, I don't really want to admit this, but when your avocados are getting ready to drop, I'm coming by with a couple of bags.
Yeah, that's right. Colleen and Bruce, the next new neighbors across the way. I might say I just really compost underneath there. I take coffee grounds out every day, some banana peels, eggshells. It's sort of I dig a little hole and I put them underneath there, and I just think I look at it as you're on a constant feed. Why? Because our soil has 1% organic matter in it. And no matter where you were before, you probably had more organic matter. I mean, I talk to people all the time and go, hey, up north, we had actually stuff called black dirt. And I go, well, welcome to Florida. We've got nice sand, silicon sand. It makes glass well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point, too, that people should be, we can either put everything into a trash bag and that can head its way to a landfill, or if there's stuff that's biodegradable, why not put it around your, anything that you're trying to improve the soil on? I mean, otherwise, especially if it's going to break down and do some benefit in keeping it on your property rather than it going into a landfill. I don't know why that seems to be what people want to do.
The solution to pollution is dilution. And as my brother Paul likes to say, who's been so worried about calling me since I've had some health problems, which has been so nice. But other than that, we'll say that, no, just joking. We're here to help answer your questions. I do believe in improving the soil, and I don't think you can do that enough. And it's one of the great things about one of our main sponsors, Black Cow, is that if you improve the soil, you'll have better results. If you've got that area in the yard where it never seems to be right, it's always kind of bad looking, that Black Cow, it's only a 0.5 as far as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it's not a great big fertilizer, but it's got all those microbes in there, and they're important. And it's hard to get that in just soil. I mean, when I see bagged soil sometimes, I remember working at Weddings Nursery as a youngster when I was 16, and somebody sold, and Charles was a smart guy, and but they sold him some dyed-looking sand, and he didn't really check it. He just assumed they were selling him some good product, and he was kind of upset later because he had kind of gotten, he received something, I should say. He received bad soil, which is, I'm just saying you can improve things with a good soil, and like a good building. You talked about your earlier career. You helped make sure houses were being built correctly. And by the way, James knows more about building than almost anybody I know. And for most things he's done. Any project I've ever had James help me on, he's always done a great job. He's meticulous. If anything, he wants to do it so well that sometimes I'm going, it's a mailbox. You can just make sure it gets put up. No, we've got to have the level. It's got to be perfect. And
he's speaking directly to an experience from this last weekend here where he had me putting up a new mailbox after having had I guess it was a county inspector had accidentally backed into it with his truck, and I'm happy to report that he was very concerned and
he
called.
Took off.
He called, and oh, maybe not. Maybe he was thinking that he'd call later and inform everyone of his mistake, but that didn't exactly take place. But
thank God I've got neighbors who wrote down the name of the county and the truck and stuff.
But they've assured us that there'll be a check in the mail.
Well, they will, or we'll be talking to our buddy Mr. Christopher. I'm sure Christopher Brenton will be there going, okay, guys.
Time to do right by the DeFreitas clan.
Yes, he'll make sure. He's our legal advisor. He'll be coming through on that, I'm sure. Well, we have a number of lawyers that I work with, but he's the one that's helped us most with real estate, which is kind of nice. It's nice to have somebody, you're not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, so it's nice to have somebody who can say, hey, here's how you can be protected.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a great attorney and friendly and very approachable and extraordinarily knowledgeable. So, good guy.
Let's mention to folks, once again, the numbers are 813-289-1860 and 877-969-8600. So you can give us a call. We're here. I'm here to answer your questions. I've had 50 to 100 people over the last few months call me going, hey, how come you're not on radio again? And I had to say, well, it takes sponsorship. It takes someone who believes in you. And so we are thankful for Utsi. We're thankful for plants. Plantz. Our buddy there, Steve, runs a great plant rental business and also ships a lot of plants around the country. If you're looking for, that special plant for Aunt Martha in New York City, he puts it in a box, gets it shipped there, and it's still alive and well.
Yeah, that's a great point to mention too. Is that with this pandemic, what I've noticed is if you drive by a Lowe's, a Home Depot, or any of the nurseries, you're going to see that they're busy. I mean, you might see a few more people headed towards the individual sections within Lowe's or Home Depot or in those places. But if you look at the nurseries themselves, they're doing really well. Even the mom and pops, I'm noticing that there are tons of cars out front and people are buying plants. So, I think that one really positive aspect, and again, I'm always looking for the silver lining in every situation,
right,
is that people are getting their hands dirty with putting in plants. And I think that is a fantastic way to spend the time, because you can either spend all of that time indoors, or you could spend that time beautifying your home and still be conscious, socially distancing and all of that stuff. You could still be aware. You don't have to go up and shake your neighbor's hands or any of that stuff. You could just wave from afar, and you can still go in and put in some beautiful plants and landscape and make everything nice and do something with this time that's positive.
Well, I agree. I know Joe back there was saying he actually had little masks he put over some of his philodendrons and Dieffenbachias and his crotons. He has little masks on them so they cannot get the corona. And I had to tell Joe, no, Joe, it's not a interspecies type thing. But, being socially conscious that he is, he made these little tiny masks around for all these crotons, and I thought that's going the extra mile.
That's right.
Anyway, we're here to help answer your questions. We'll try to make it fun, as we do in all of our talks. We talk for a lot of different groups. We've talked to almost every group with Berkshire Hathaway's home services. We've been to...
We're still missing a few, but I'd love to get back out there. And I mean, one of the things that I'm hoping with, that we're going to find is that eventually I'm hoping we'll get back to some sense of normalcy. And I'm hoping that'll happen at some point where we can go back to shaking hands and that kind of thing.
We agree. So the plant talk and real estate talk will continue here on the AM 860, The Answer.
Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Florida Properties Group encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve fair market value for your home. Are you tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? Instead, we make the buyers pay for it. Again, go to aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions on gardening, real estate, or both? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
I'm Stan DeFreitas, and my son James, of course.
Yeah, I'm James DeFreitas, and we're here today. We're here to take any of your calls that you might have on gardening and or real estate, so feel free to give us a buzz.
Yeah, it's not as crazy as you might think. We do both. Might say we also want to thank Carl Utze with Utze Tree Service, who I've worked with for years. Carl is a great guy. And his 727-323-4303 for his number if you want to give them a call. Utze has been got great equipment, a great team, and often they'll refer me. I go out and inject trees on occasion. If they've got borers, which are larval stages of beetles, say, John, Paul, Ringo, and the boys, without Epi, we can't do rock and roll like we used to. Well, not those beetles. We're talking about beetles that attack your trees. And so we're there to try to help that. I go out to sometimes inject trees for like palm trees with OTC. And what is OTC?
Oxytetracycline, I think.
See, I knew you'd know. Yeah. Oxytetracycline, we did a program actually for the University of South Florida. And I'm happy to say we started their program both Bayboro and in Tampa. Actually, over in Tampa, I went over and proved that they had a problem, went, took samples, sent them off to the University of Florida, and then they waited. They waited a year and called me back. And then they said they'd lost $100,000 worth of palms. And I said, I told you a year ago, I identified your problem as this Texas Phoenix decline, sometimes called bronzing now. And they went, well, now we're going to do something. And so they did. Eventually, I set up a program for them. And, of course, then they did it in-house, which was okay. I'm not bitter. But we helped them. Any way I can help save trees is a good thing. But they didn't do it right away. That was my only concern. But often with the government, you've got to get this big old train kind of moving, and then, a year later, it's actually another quarter of a mile down the track.
They usually have to lose a few things first that are really expensive, and then they have to go before a committee and talk about it and go, why didn't you do something?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so they had all these beautiful those Phoenix palms. And, of course, when they do lose one, they usually stick one right back into the same spot. Normally, I try to get people to switch to different species. If you lose something there and you put exactly the same thing in, you might be giving hamburger to the fly.
Yeah, or as you would say sometimes, you don't want to get back into Typhoid Mary's bed.
Exactly. That's one of my old sayings, and it's true. So often I like to change stuff out. So if you lose something in a spot, well, let's try to find out why you lost something, and then maybe you can do something about it. At least changing species is a good idea.
Sure.
So I talked a little bit about avocados earlier. I grew a navel. I've got bananas. I've grown figs. I've got tomatoes going right now. I just harvested a cucumber the other day. I've grown, of course, beans, broccoli. I've got some kale going. I've got cabbage going. And I've got some carambolas, starfruit. So, yes, if I had my way, every inch and foot would have something edible in there, because I think that's where we're all going. And speaking of that, we're going to have our buddy, probably Anthony Canaris' brother, Pete, who runs a nursery up in Pasco County. His landscaping is they come in, they rip out all your old stuff, and they put in edible stuff.
Okay, an edible landscape. Yeah, those are coming on. I think that's kind of the preferred thing to do nowadays, to make sure that, not only is it beautiful to look at, but what does it do for me?
Sure.
And I think that's something that, it's a good trend, and I'm glad to see people doing that.
Yeah, I was talking to him about an edible olive you could have, and also a little mulberry maybe I could put in a container, because, I know you should have more fruits. We all know more fruits, more veggies, and as we all scarf down our hamburgers and fries and stuff, probably less hamburgers now that they're having a impact on meat shortages. But that might be a good thing. It may be. You're talking about your silver lining. That's probably the silver lining that we're looking for. And you should probably be growing some more of your own food. And I like that. I don't get to grow all my own food, but I do grow some of my own food. And I always, we had sweet potatoes for Thanksgiving. You were there with your lovely wife. And they were kind of that golden looking sweet potatoes.
Delicious.
And in fact, the man who gave me those cuttings came by the house the other day. We walked by, he was walking his dog.
Oh, okay.
So, Dave.
I didn't realize that was the connection.
That was our connection point. And I didn't recognize him at first, but I was so looking at the dog. I'm like everybody else. Yeah, I look at you, but I look at your dog or cat first, and then I don't. That's always weird. You ever find yourself where you're talking to the dog and not to the person?
Well, sometimes you like to sell homes to dogs.
I did. Yeah, we had one where we had, we won't say who it was, but Scott, let's just say his first name.
Yeah.
He came to look at a condo we were listing, we were going to auction. And he goes, well, he was from Chicago. He goes, my dog, Wrigley, imagine, he named his dog Wrigley. He says, if Wrigley likes this condo, I'm going to buy it. And I'm giving Wrigley a little doggy treat and saying, Wrigley, there's a dog park only a block away. Wrigley, he and I were, thinking together. Wrigley liked it. He bought the condo, and we were happy. So we connected the dots.
Yeah, and that's a great point, too, because a lot of times what happens is that we get the question all the time, which is, I see that you've taken on this property. It's an accelerated sale, which means you're ultimately going to auction off the property. And I think that the question that becomes is people are like, well, do I have to wait until it's auction day? or could I go ahead and make an offer today? And the answer is yes, you can make an offer today. It has to be a substantial offer. I mean, we do wind up getting a lot of people that will take a look at, say, our initial listing price. And I will say they're not wrong in their assumption. I mean, the Pinellas Realtor Organization, and I shouldn't say it's even pro, but it's the multiple listing service, Stellar MLS service, doesn't really have an option to make sure that people understand that a minimum opening bid is not exactly where it's going to sell at in an auction. So, that's kind of the initial confusion point, as I would say. But yeah, I mean, one of the things is if we have a buyer who wants to buy a piece of property and we have a seller who wants to accept that price at that price, then why in the heck would we wait the full time in order to do that? And I think the obvious answer to that is we wouldn't, and it doesn't make sense for us to do that. So, yeah. But now that being said, we did have a court-ordered auction property that came up last year, and if it was court-ordered, then we have to follow whatever the judge says. I mean, if there's a settlement decree on there, then obviously somebody can't really make a purchase before the auction because it was deemed it had to go to an auction by a judge. So that's something that I think that's the big difference between the two types of things. So yeah. So the other thing I would say too, we've had the argument before where people will say, gardening and real estate. I don't know how you guys are mixing the two, but the thing I would argue to that is you've never ever you'll always look at it and you'll say, what's the curb appeal? You'll have agents always reminding people that matters. We went in, we looked at a beautiful piece of property going into, I think they had the home was listed at $900,000. And the very first thing that we noticed was a bunch of dead palm trees as we were coming into the place. And I'm thinking to myself, $900,000, and I'm supposed to ignore the dead palm trees as I come in. And now, and sometimes there's some aesthetic things that you can't be helped. Sometimes you're looking at it and you're going, well, I wish those mobile homes weren't right next to this $900,000 home. And, those are some things that really you're not going to change. But they're there, and those things do affect value in terms of what you might actually get. The other thing I would say is that with the pandemic that we've all been dealing with, we're still trying to assess how that's going to handle or how values are going to be impacted from that. And I do think that in my mind, I'm still seeing a lot of front loading in terms of real estate. And what I mean by front loading is I see a lot of sellers still wanting to sell. And the question will be is whether or not we can deplete the inventory fast enough so as to continue marching the march we've been marching for the beginning of the year, because we were doing really well up until this occurred. So that's a big question mark, I think, on most real estate agents' minds right now, is trying to determine if pricing is going to continue staying steady or if the inventory is going to continue to keep expanding. And if that's the case, that may change pricing going forward.
Right, and I think we're going to have maybe more of a V.
Yeah, well, and again, as Stan was just saying, I hope it's a V, but I think at best case scenario, in my mind, if somebody were to ask me today, I would say it's more of a U. And yeah, I mean, I think that the rosy picture that a lot of agents that I hear want to make it a V, and I hope they're right, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's more of a U, and I hope it's not an L.
Well, I think things are going to bounce back here, and I'm kind of glad, with all the social distancing and other things that people have, which is fine, which is great. I think things we're coming out. You have to let people work. And, I don't think our society, we have enough money out there to keep people, some of the folks aren't getting their money and they need to go back to work. And if they're wearing their masks and they're doing all the stuff they need to do, let them do it.
Sure.
I have maybe a different theory than a lot of folks, but I mean, when I was a kid, you had the measles, you had the mumps, the parents would take you over to get it. You'd get it over with, and you had immunity.
Sure.
Today it's like, oh no, you can't do that. That worked 40 years ago. It worked 50 years ago. It worked 100 years ago. But don't do that now. Well,
sure, and I think honestly, I think we're living in a culture now where, and again, we have businesses that the idea is they're promoting the concept of safety and everything, but the other aspect of it is they don't want to be sued.
Sure.
And so when you factor in the amount of lawsuits that occur, that's why when you walk into a Lowe's or a Home Depot or any place, you're seeing the plexiglass go up. Right. I'd love to say that I thought that their intentions were purely to make it to where their workers wouldn't get sick, and I would love to say that it was from the idea that they were hoping you wouldn't get sick, and I'm sure that is part of it. But the other aspect of it is they have to be able to demonstrate that they did something in case somebody were to get the coronavirus and have a problem. So at the end of the day, though, we will get through it, and it may be a longer pain point than people wanted it to be, but we will come out the other side. We're resilient people, and we're tough.
I agree. 813-289-1860. We'll put you on the air with us. We'd like to hear from you. Maybe welcome us back. We've been on the air forever. 877-969-8600. And, of course, we're here to do the real estate and gardening show.
That's right, real estate and gardening.
We're going to give you both. We want you to think of those questions. If something's going wrong in your yard or garden, well, that's the reason we're here. So give us a call.
Give us a call, folks.
And be a part of the show as it continues here on 860 AM The Answer.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's PLANTZ, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Florida Properties Group encourages you to auction your Florida real estate. Please go to aflre.com. That's A for auction, FL for Florida, and RE for real estate. We achieve fair market value for your home. Are you tired of paying real estate commissions? How about 0% commission for sellers? Instead, we make the buyers pay for it. Again, go to aflre.com. That's Auction Florida Real Estate. That's aflre.com.
UTZ Tree Service, that's YUTZY, is singularly focused on complete customer satisfaction and has been for almost 50 years. From initial contact to service completion, UTZTreeService.com will prove that you have hired the best tree care service available. With the most knowledgeable staff and the most advanced equipment, you can be sure that UTZTreeService.com is the most professional tree care company in the Tampa Bay area. Contact UTZTreeService.com today for the highest quality tree care.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Call now, 813-289-1860. Toll free, 877-969-8600. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning to you as we start off our maiden voyage here on 860 AM 860, The Answer. We'll make sure we get that right.
Absolutely.
And Joe will be in there swatting me if I don't make sure I say it right. But
and I'm sure we already said this, but in case we didn't, big happy Mother's Day out there to all of the moms, and hopefully the dads out there will be cooking some meals tonight in honor of them, because they certainly deserve it. And so I always want to make sure, including my own mom, Peggy is her name, and she is a wonderful person, and I love her very much. And so I'm sending her a big happy Mother's Day here over the air.
Well, that's nice. You got a good mother, no doubt about that. And I'm going to say I have a good wife. So it's been 44 years, and
doing something right.
Yep. We're here, of course, to answer your questions. And we will, as we have. And we kind of hope that you'll tell your neighbors and friends. You know, it's going to be a slow build. We tell our folks that listen to the station and people who listen to other stations. They say, I've worked on a ton of other stations, but glad to be here. I might say this is as nice a fun group as I've been around, and that is really good to be with. And so I appreciate.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, how long do you think it has been since you were on doing the radio?
Well, other than Uncle Mort, it's probably been maybe 8 or 9 years, I guess, since I did the other show.
Sure.
On the other station. Their loss, our gain.
Absolutely.
They like to say around here, we're glad that we have Mr. GT as our horticultural answer guy. But we're here to help answer those questions that may come up. And if you have some, well, you know, people say, what about Black Cow? Great stuff. Great product. I wouldn't think of putting a vegetable garden in without it. When I'm replanting something, I like to put some Black Cow in there. It's just good product. It's we saw them make it. They make what, 6-7 million bags a year.
It's an enormous amount. I mean, I was and one of the things I was shocked. I mean, and the other thing I would say too, if anybody wants to go look at that particular segment that we did a video segment. You can go to AskMrGreenthumb.com, and that's all spelled out. So AskMrGreenthum.com. Thanks. And if you go there, then you can look at the Black Cow segment that we did, because first, it's a pretty enormous property that they have out there in Oxford, Florida, but there's a lot of science that goes into what they do too. I mean, they turn the piles, and I forget how often. I think it was like once a week or something that they turn them.
You got those brake thermometers that are like 6-foot things they stick into the pile to make sure it's up to the right temperature.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff as to how they do all of that, and then watching them take the front end loaders, and you know and then there's different stages of different products that they're making, different consistencies, and it's pretty impressive because they'll take the front end loaders, they'll move them onto a conveyor belt, and then the automation that they have in their factory is also extremely impressive. And then and then it kind of, at least for me, I mean, you walk out to their back area and you just see this sea of pallets after pallets after pallets. I mean, it was just like it seemed like it was as far as the horizon would go, waiting for them to be put onto big 16-wheelers and taken all around the country.
They're bringing in stuff every day, and every day stuff's going out, and just amazing. And actually, our contact point there is Michael Lang, and of course, you know Michael Lang. There's a different Michael Lang that works here at the station.
Yeah, not to be confused with Dr. Lang, the eye guy.
The Dr. Lang, who is here and been here for a good long time. A lot of folks will know him. We work with another Michael Lang, which I thought was kind of amazing, who owns Black Cow. So actually, I talked with Michael Lang when I was thinking I had a couple different stations that I was talking about going to. And so I had a nice conversation. He was great. Called me back, talked to me, told me about how the great equipment was here and how everybody was helpful and friendly. And he was right. You know, he led me, I think, in a right direction.
Sure.
And so we were happy about that. I'm happy that I'm working with my son, James, and we've been working with real estate. We became licensed auctioneers. As I said, we spent thousands of dollars to learn how to speak bad English. But so we go, hey, we got 200,000 over here, 210 over here, 220 over there, 230. So one of the nice things I was going to say this last year is one of my proudest moments in auctioneering was to raise about $13,000 with the fine folks at Safety Harbor. And
for the Maddie Williams.
The Maddie Williams house, and for their Christmas. So kids have a Christmas. I didn't do that much. I was up for an hour and a half or so auctioneering, getting stuff coming in for the kids. And it was just a really great thing because I believe all kids should have a Christmas, and certainly every, our friends there, Patty and Kent and Chris did a wonderful job. They were part of it, one of the major happenings there. And all the other fine folks that came and bought stuff so that people would have a Christmas, and I thought that was great. I was field goal kicker as I normally am. I did my little shtick, but I was happy to do that.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Absolutely.
So we're here, of course, to help you. If you've got some questions, 813-289-1860, 877-969-8600. we'll put you on the air with us. And we'd like to hear from a few folks today. Actually, I expected a call or two, but I know sleepyheads are probably sleeping in on Sunday morning. You folks should be getting up, going to church, and going other places. But
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the churches are even open yet.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, that's true. I talked to...
Maybe virtual services.
Virtual churches. Yeah, I was talking to Jeffrey yesterday evening. He said, we have virtual church.
Yeah.
And I guess most churches are doing that now.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's going to be something that they'll... I don't know. I know on Monday, I think they're finally opening up the salons and nail places and stuff. And then I would imagine that the churches eventually in the next week or so will be opening up, but probably they'll probably have to have a, social distancing where they're, maybe at 50% capacity or something to that nature. I think that probably could be done, but I also think that, if you can't have everybody that wants to come, you're going to leave some people behind, which, but still, for those that would prefer to a live service, and I hope, I think that's one of the points I was trying to make before, is that I hope we don't forget who we are. This pandemic thing is something that should be that we deal with, that comes and it goes. It shouldn't be something that radically alters our existence forever. And when I hear of restaurants, considering spending millions of dollars across the country and they have. I was reading an article where they were talking about spending money to retrofit their restaurants so that there would be no back-to-back booths. People could always be 6 feet apart. And I hate to tell you the 6-foot rule. The scientist at MIT came out and said, well, you really should probably be 27 feet apart, because we've seen that a sneeze can go 27 feet. So
that'll be our social distance.
Well, it sort of speaks to the idea that 6 feet's a bit arbitrary, and
sure.
And maybe that helps to some degree, and maybe they've done the math to determine that the likelihood is that you're less likely to have a problem at that distance, but. There is no such thing as 100% safe, and some of the stats that I've been reading too about coronavirus is that, at least up in New York, a lot of the people that have confirmed cases there are saying, was it 66% of them that are confirmed cases were in their home, so they were doing what they were supposed to do. They weren't going out. So, so now, geez, are we getting it because of the air conditioning? Are we getting it because of this? Are we getting, and it's just, so, at the end of the day, it kind of backs up to what you were saying before, which is, the mindset of yesteryear was, hey, if Johnny has it, let's get Johnny and Larry together so that Larry can get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just, so somewhere along those lines, we've sort of forgotten that that's how we used to handle the inoculation process.
Yep.
But there is no such thing as 100% safe. And if you want that, then the game of life is not for you.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And I think a lot of folks, the same thing with your yard. There's going to be fungi and bacteria, and there's going to be problems out there. I had somebody come up to me one time and they said, I think you made up this term, this blight. And I said, well, go back to the potato famine. A million people died because of it. It was a fungus. It's a blight. Well, what about, I should go back and read the Old Testament. It's full of blight and pestilence. It's not something I came up with. It's something we have to deal with. But, hey, it's been a great first show. James, I'm glad you were with me.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun and really enjoyed it. And we'll do this again next Sunday from 7 to 8. And we'll be here to take gardening and real estate questions.
And then go to our website too, right?
That's right. They can go to AskMrGreenthumb.com, and they can also go to Auction Florida Real Estate, which is AFLRE.com.
Thanks for being with us, folks.